What's up everyone and welcome to another Warframe video. Today's video has been one that's in the works for quite some time and one that I wanted to make sure I did justice. Focus of today's video is going to be a frame I would find it hard to not describe as the best frame in the game, and it's one that I often see really low on Warframe tier lists, and that is the queen of, well, everything? Hildryn. Hildryn is one of those frames that came out, and while people realised really early on you could abuse her shield gating to make her nearly invincible using shield regen and dragon keys, I don't think many people really found her particularly good when it came to using her actual abilities. Fast forward a few months, well, a year and a few months, and some augments and weird experimental builds, and here we are at probably the best frame in the game right now and the best frame for the upcoming Steel Path. The footage in the background is going to be a mix of Steel Path, high risk Prodman index, as well as a 2-hour Kuva survival and a little bit of low level Fisher mission throw in as well, just to show her versatility. So why is she so good and what's changed to have such a dramatic turnaround when it comes to her power? Well, we're going to be talking about 3 of her 4 abilities because no matter what you do, Aegis Storm is not very good. Talking about what we're looking for is going to help show why we're using the mods we're using. So Baelfire Charge, there's not a lot to talk about here as to why it's good, apart from when your frame and weapon is properly modded. Hot damn, the damage it does is ridiculous. It has a 3-meter explosion radius to kick the heck out of entire groups too, which can be modded for range. We're going to be focusing on the quick shot rather than the charge shot, and that's mostly because the quick shot, while it's half the damage of the charged, it costs less and fires faster, meaning that the DPS is actually a whole lot faster than using the charged shot. With the Kuva Fortress footage you see me doing in the background, the enemies are around 450 by the end, and when the enemies are stripped using Pillage, I am still one-shotting with Baelfire. It really does do a ridiculous amount of damage and can be relied on until pretty damn high level. Especially when you combine it with not just Pillage, but also the Blazing Pillage Augment. Pillage in Steel Path is going to be incredible. With the additional shield and armor multipliers, having an ability like Pillage, which is going to strip those, is going to be incredible. For this to be effective though, you do need to have incredibly high power strength. The magic number is to actually aim for is 400% strength, which is very hard to hit with just mods, but this is going to hit you, or cause you to hit both 100% shield and 100% armor strip. You're likely to need to have another teammate with growing power, Nidus Spectre, Paxbolt on the kick gun to do this. But even without those, it's still an 86% strip of both of the enemy defense types. Then we have Blazing Pillage, which honestly turns Hildryn into Old Ember. Enemies that are linked to Hildryn via Haven and then get affected by Pillage will be set on fire, have the fire proc applied to them and will do some damage. Now while the damage isn't much to talk about at higher level, it means she can blitz through low level fissures with ease and just absolutely demolish them. She is one of the quickest relic runners by a really long way. Old Ember in her low level was super strong. Well, she ain't got nothing on Hildryn. But once that damage does fall off, the fire proc not only crowd controls enemies around, allowing you to kill them before they do anything to you, but because it's a fire proc, not only do we have the strip from our Pillage of just under 90%, you also have the heat proc that will halve the armor that's remaining. So even if you aren't hitting 400% strength, you're actually still going to be removing almost everything to the extent that it is a huge boost in your damage. Oh, and if that's not enough, the armor and shields that she strips, she uses to replenish her own shields and give herself overshield as well. Also resets her shield gate. It's her main way of recovering her shield and is a key part of her survivability. Then you have Haven. Not only is this required for Blazing Pillage to do the heat proc, it will also link to your companion, make them incredibly tough to take down too, especially since it gives your companions and your teammates Hildryn's 3-second shield gate. So, like you see in the footage, level 400 plus and Carrier Prime is still alive. Well, that's practically unheard of, quite frankly. You can also link to friendlies in the area, give them ridiculous shields with void buffs, We were buffing each other's Hildryns up to nearly 10,000 shield, giving us infinite energy and super high survivability. Not only that, but in those low level fissures where we're just blitzing them, the damage is really, really good and is going to be killing the enemies super quickly. So that's crazy damage from the first ability, armor strip, shield strip, crowd control, and another armor debuff from the 2, plus low level damage, companion survivability, team buffs if they're in range, and low level damage from your 3. She has a huge amount going for her right now. So naturally, build-wise is where we're going to tie it all together and push her to the limit. It is a 9-former build in total, focusing mostly on power strength. So let's start with the frame. 4-former here, we're going Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, Augur Secrets, Umbral Intensify, and Growing Power for as much strength as we can. That's going to give us 347% strength when we got Growing Power going. And the amazing thing about Hildryn is that because we're using our shields as our energy, she really doesn't need to worry about efficiency. A single cast of her 2, provided you hit at least one enemy, is going to restore a decent amount of shield even at low level, and basically full at high level. So that saves us some mod space there. Redirection is going to give us a massive shield reserve to work really well with that negative efficiency. Stretch for a little more range on both Baelfire Charge and Haven, and also for the initial cast range on Pillage. Pillage is affected by both duration and range, however, even with the frame built this way, it has a huge range on it. So even dumping duration a little bit isn't horrible. Adaptation is going to give us some extra damage reduction, Blazing Pillage for the heat procs and heat damage, and then Prime Sure-Footed to make sure that we never get knocked down. If you don't have the Prime Sure-Footed, you could always use Power Drift in the Ellis slot, and that's going to give you a little bit more strength and also buff you up to about a 90% armor strip. Arcane wise, I am basically running an Aegis and an Avenger. Aegis, when it is procced, is basically 12 seconds of God mode. It's super hard to die with that procced, and despite it only being a 3% chance, you can take so much fire in some missions, it's procced pretty regularly. Plus you can do stuff like just standing in napalm fire to try and actually help trigger it. The second Arcane is almost entirely personal preference. Arcane Strike is a fantastic option if you're playing around a lot with melee, and Arcane Avenger is very underrated too. An additive 45% crit to all of your arsenal, including your Baelfires, is a pretty big boost to some weapons, although not really that helpful for melee. These are the 2 that I really would recommend here. Now, I know people are going to ask about Barrier, and honestly, on Hildryn, it's pretty pointless. It doesn't do anything when you're in overshield, which is almost all the time. Doesn't trigger while you're using the shield gate either. So there's so much time where you're just going to get no use out of it whatsoever. I would say that it's almost entirely useless on here, so I just cannot recommend it. But I know that if I don't mention it, the comments are going to be full of, what about Barrier? So I thought I'd talk about that now. This build has a lot to do with how amazing she feels, and not building enough strength really means that you're never going to unlock her true potential. It's taken a whole bunch of iterations to get her to this stage. The Baelfires are a little bit simpler. We're going raw damage with Viral and Radiation, Magnum Force and Augur Pacts on here for maximum damage. As you can see, because of our mods and because of the power strength from our frame build, we're doing 115,000 damage per shot on the quick shot and 230,000 on a charge shot, which is, well, nuts, quite frankly. So there is an argument for building this for crit if you're running Avenger. Personally, I found it a bit too inconsistent to build the entire weapon for crit. However, if you go with Avenger, you're going to have more reliable crits, and much higher base damage is still a massive increase in damage output, but you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket with a full crit build. There is that argument for swapping out Augur Pact for Prime Target Cracker. That's a personal preference call though. The slow fire rate does mean that despite it being a 50% crit chance, it's not that consistent, so going raw damage could actually work out better. As you can see, like in the Kuva survival footage, the enemies are well into their 400s and I'm still like one-shotting. So even if you did theoretically get more DPS out of it, it's kind of unnecessary. In terms of playstyle, there's not really a lot to talk about. She's incredibly easy to play. Have your 2 cast as much as you physically can. This means that if you take a hit or go into your shield gate invul phase, as soon as your 2 cast either ends or you manually end the cast, provided you've hit enough enemies, you're going to immediately reset your shield gate. Or even if you do screw up, just go into Operator for a second to regen enough shields to cast Pillage. In all honesty, the only way you die on Hildryn is if you are not paying attention. For the power that you get from her, she is fantastically easy to play. So have your 1 cast shooting away like crazy, keep your 2 up at all times, have your 3 up at all times. The Hildryn life is an incredibly easy one, but she does require some actual playing. If you're expecting Inaros level AFK, Hildryn isn't going to do it for you. However, what you do get for actually playing the frame: huge damage, shield and armor strip, crowd control, invulnerable sentinels effectively, and some really amazing team support. Not to mention she almost literally cannot die unless you stop paying any attention whatsoever. She is one hell of a frame and probably the best one in the game right now. Even more so when Steel Path comes along and puts in those new modifiers, both of which Hildryn laughs at. To show my point, the footage showing for the last couple of minutes has been that of high risk Steel Path Prodman before they reduced their effective hit points by about half. And to be honest with you, there's no other frame that could have done this without abusing percentage damage. So, to put it simply, she has literally everything you ever want from a frame. Easily one of the strongest out there, and easily the most underappreciated. I hope you enjoyed this look at my favourite frame in the game right now. Let me know what you think of Hildryn in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, sub for more Warframe content, and I shall catch you in the next video.